Hello Charles, welcome to Show Studio.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we're going to be chatting about your Spring Summer 18 collection as part of our Re-See series. And it was like a super fun, vivacious show. Everyone was beaming from ear to ear the whole time. It was fab. But before we talk about the show, I want to talk about the way that you and Jack Appleyard work. And for those of you who don't know, Jack is stylist, set designer, multifaceted fingers in all the pies.
Oh yes, definitely.
Because the way you both work is super unique, and you kind of have this, I want to say cut and paste technique, but correct me if I'm wrong, where you dress, kind of dress with mishmash. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I guess when we first started sort of doing these collections, I was sort of going back into how I used to work with my MA, which was when I used to sort of take pictures of myself with my outfits and use that as sort of primary research to start, drawing and designing from. And we were hanging out loads at the time. We were obviously doing the club night together, and we just started using that as a kind of way to sort of do these Loverboy collections. So we just got all the clothes in my room. I remember taking my bed apart and then putting the mattress above against the wall, and then making a mini studio in the room, two kind of beam lights that we borrowed off our friend William. And we just started taking some photos, and we were just kind of styling clothes a little bit differently, chopping them up, putting tape on things, then our friend would pop round, and then we'd be like, oh, your jacket's really nice, can we put this on? And then it was just sort of grew from there. So now we kind of formalize it a little bit more, but and then obviously having the space in Somerset House, we have a lot, a very large space which we can work in with loads of natural light, and we can use that, and we bring in loads of clothes, and basically we sort of kind of just have a laugh, and there's mood boards that we have, and based on kind of the research that I will start with, and we kind of think about these characters, and it's sort of an unconscious thing that we sort of have in the back of our minds, but then we just sort of play, and so we have loads of vintage clothes, some of the old Loverboy clothes, so that we can reuse the patterns and stuff. We have tape, we have pins, scissors, wigs, we had platforms. This time, just loads of stuff, and then we basically sort of just kind of play and start building these characters, and then that's sort of the basis for the collection. And then we actually, again, to formalize it, we brought in a photographer, James Anastasi, and also another friend of ours, Louis Banks, for another day. So we kind of got somebody who was, instead of it just being photographs on our phone, it was actually a photographer capturing those images. So it was a kind of really good way for us to sort of use those characters and have them in that kind of really nice photograph. Yeah, and I mean, it's just really quick, and it's just that's a suit by Jack, which obviously you've seen in the his Best in Show. Yeah. And it's pretty much a direct reference, but then there's my hand on the kind of interpretation of his sad faces there. And it's just a really nice way to work. I think, because I always had a little bit of anxiety when I was trying to design on the MA like everybody else, doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sketches, trying to toile, even though I just don't have the capacity to necessarily pattern cut. I mean, I can make things, but I just can't necessarily, I don't have the mind for it. I always respect people who are able to kind of do it in that way. Yeah. But yeah, so I kind of feel this is a great way for me to sort of go against that and just be well, do you know what, it doesn't have to be this way. If you're doing something that's fun, then you're obviously doing something right. So yeah, I mean, even though this is crazy, there's definitely elements from this that we could sort of take, even if it's just the hairstyle, even though okay, we're dropping this look, but just love how that hair looks here, maybe we can push that forward, or how we've tied on the leg there. Yeah. These just the subtle things, and I think it's about validating mistakes and sort of about validating mess and something that people would maybe snub their noses at. So I think, this way of working, I'm kind of keen to sort of push it forward for new seasons as well. So it's not just about kind of playing with clothes, it's maybe about playing with aspects of garments. So it's all always about pushing forward and developing, but still having that element of play, but maybe trying it, and each time doing it, not formalizing it, but refining it a little bit further, and having that as a sort of basis, and bouncing off different people as well, because lots of people have different visions, and I think it's about kind of creating a space and a kind of element where you can just actually enjoy and kind of play around. So yeah, I think that whole aspect of play is definitely translated through the whole show, right to the very end, so it's very resolved.
And you can kind of see these characters start to emerge as you guys are doing this kind of, I'm just going to keep saying cut and paste.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, definitely.
And there's specifically in your Spring Summer 18, I mean, you do tend to have characters, personally, I think, in your shows, but for Spring Summer 18, I feel like they were super explicit. You have these kind of rugby boys, and there's all these wonderful phrases in your street urchins and hussar soldiers. And how do you get these characters? Is it kind of through this cut and pasting thing that you do with Jack, or is it through research, or a bit of both, or what's the process? And
I think it's definitely through a bit of both. I mean, essentially, like I always start with doing research. So, you know, like how I was trained at St. Martin's, you go to the library, you do primary research, but you also look through kind of like loads of different things and kind of try to put them together, or whatever you're kind of feeling at the moment. I mean, I'm really interested in trying to inject a lot more sort of historical costume within the kind of Loverboy DNA. And yeah, I was really interested in Hogarth at the time, you know, one of our great British artists. And yeah, I mean, like there's loads of kind of images, and I've got one here.
Here's one I made earlier.
Here's one I made earlier. Oh, take off the tape. So I'd like do a little TV presentation.
Ta-da!
I mean, the thing I love about Hogarth is just like there's always this idea of like dilapidation in like a lot of his images, and you know, there's just so much going on, and it's like a kind of orgy of people kind of together, whether it's like literally an orgy or just like a kind of a mass of people and doing lots of different things. I mean, essentially, like that's what that kind of energy of like a mishmash of people sort of really kind of pushed me to kind of try and bring all these different references together. So, you know, even though we were looking at loads of different things, we were looking at, you know, Charles Frere photography. We were also looking at this book called Movie Genre, you know, with Andy Warhol, Magritte. You know, there's like fencing doublets and all of that, you know, but it's all together in this one place. And I think this kind of Hogarth image really kind of spoke to me as this, like, you know, all of these characters can exist in this one place, and they can all be doing lots of different things. And I just think there's no right or wrong way of doing fashion, and for me this feels really right and fun, and it just feels really kind of relevant to like the things that I've done in the past with the club night, especially. You know, like you can turn your eyes around when you're in that space at Loverboy, and there's like different people, like, you know, exuding all these different energies, and you know, they're all together in this one space just to kind of, you know, be joyous and happy. And I think that's just so powerful, and it's just like you can't really get that anywhere else. And I think that's why people always want to go out and want to kind of dance and party. You know, it's like
it definitely was a party vibe, and I love the music choice. It's like Jimmy Somerville.
Yeah,
so
I love
good.
Jimmy Somerville.
And immediately you're thinking of this kind of like regal, but also still party. But I think everyone was so happy already because it was your first standalone show. So there was already this amazing kind of excitement. People are buzzing and like, what's it going to be? La la la. And then this music starts playing, and all this amazing set by Gary starts coming out. And then you have all these wonderful references and the dancing, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's a celebration. And it was like a feast for the eyes, total orgy, just like that image. But I wanted to ask about, because this was your first standalone show, was there anything you had to approach differently? Did you feel any different pressures? I mean,
I was quite kind of terrified, to be honest with you, because, you know, there's all these expectations of you know, when you start kind of making a bit of a buzz and a bit of a name for yourself, and people are reacting to the work that you're doing, you know, like fashion, in all fashion, people are kind of want to expect the next best thing every single time, and like outbeat the next show, and I just wanted this show to be the best thing ever. And I think ultimately what I wanted to do in maybe comparison to what we've done in other seasons is, instead of sort of like trying to do another trajectory or trying to push the brand to a different direction, like I just wanted to do what we do really, really well. And even though we are still kind of like looking at different things and moving in a different place, like it was like, what can we do really well? What does Loverboy stand for? You know, that's why the name of the collection is called Portrait of a Loverboy. It's like looking back at what we've done before, you know, like reflecting on what Loverboy is to people and also to myself. So I guess, like, I mean, I kind of had to sort of put together a kind of proposal towards, you know, to apply for New Gen. and they wanted to kind of know what I was looking at and what I was planning to do. And I guess, you know, when I was talking about this idea of Portrait to a Lover Boy, I grounded it with the four letter C's. So we had colour, cross-dressing, chaos, and control. And
oh, I love that.
yeah, so I mean,
so much.
Those elements always sort of seem to kind of come up in my work. I mean, colour is definitely like intrinsic with how I illustrate. Like I've always been attracted to primary colours, and you know, I just like kind of love trying to see what colours we can push in menswear. And I think
in particular is super colourful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like for example, this one is it's like just I guess all of my illustrations that I usually do in like Posca pen that's done, or like in taped fabric that I've done before.
And the bride was super poppy as well.
Yeah, I mean, all of these colours just kind of, I think it's just a bit audacious, and I just quite like that. I mean, it's like, you know, why not just put red, yellow, blue on there? Because you ultimately kind of associate it with maybe packaging or something. I mean, or like a cream egg, I don't know. No, but I mean, for me, it's just like, I'm naturally so attracted to those colours in an illustration kind of capacity. But then, you know, I like to kind of blend that into, you know, whatever we're doing, or however it works for which look. And then cross-dressing, obviously, you know, this whole idea of like gender as a spectrum is so, you know, it's very well known now, and it's very well people are like kind of warming to it, and on a greater scale rather than just the smaller community that have done so before. So I think there was an element of me kind of wanting to stay true to that, but then also kind of look at cross-dressing kind of in almost like in a little bit of a humorous way. You know, there is something quite humorous about a man in a dress, whether it's just the intention of how that man wants to come across. And I think, you know, there's a really amazing book that I found in Donlan Books, called Mauvais Genre. It's a French book, and it's kind of like here you go. It's just a really beautifully curated book that has, you know, lots of different images of men and women sort of cross-dressing. So here you've got like women in men's suits, as you can see, and you know, it goes from like Victorian ages, and then you have like men in women's clothes, and you know, there's an energy of this. Obviously, there's a kind of a whole trans identity within this book, which I think is really beautiful, and because it's done so beautifully and curated so beautifully. But then there's also this kind of playful element to it, and you know, there's one look in particular which I just loved this image so much, and I just did a complete direct reference of it for one of the looks. So this one here is clearly quite a kind of humorous photo. I don't think it kind of carries any form of sort of I guess, you know, it's trying, like, you know, this is maybe a trans identity here. I feel like this is, you know, more just a sort of humorous photo. And I just absolutely adored this. I just loved that this man was wearing this huge sort of like floral heavy dress.
Which one is that?
So if you go, it's a bit further down. It's the grey one with the Loverboy headpiece on top. So it's a bit further down. There we go.
There we go.
So literally, it is like, I mean, we didn't decide to do it in floral, but we did it in men's suiting fabric.
Yeah.
But you know, it's got the pleating all at the top there and the big sleeves. And then instead of doing that kind of bucket hat there, we decided to, you know, look back at our primary research, which was the, you know, cut and paste and playing around. And we had one of those, you know, plain kind of cushions that you like lean your head on.
Oh, right.
I can't remember what you call them, but
I can't remember what you call them either.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, I don't know, it's like a cushion or whatever. A neck cushion. You see it on PVC. But then you kind of, we just propped it on the head and just thought it looked really hilarious. And yeah, it was just kind of then refining that. So we worked with Noel Stewart. And again, like, you know, taking this really kind of naive, playful, you know, image of us just shoving something on the head and then giving it to him and being like, how can you refine this? And there was kind of almost like a back and forth between, you know, should we stay true to the pillow and make it in this kind of foam fabric, or do we kind of then do it in something a little bit more, you know, beautiful and well crafted? And so this was made out of vintage lace. Wow. And I actually can't remember the name of the material that he used to kind of form it, but it's this kind of, I think you wet it and it's kind of a net and you do different layers of it. It's a traditional kind of hat making material, millinery material. Oh, yeah. But it's really lightweight and it's really beautifully crafted. And yeah, yeah, that's, I mean, it's another element of us sort of like going to and fro with that kind of, I guess, chaos to control, which leads me to the other two C's of the proposal that I was talking to you about earlier. So yeah, like that idea of chaos, you know, that kind of like playing around and then like refining it and putting it back into control. So these are kind of themes that sort of always crop up in the work.
I think you can see that with these, is it Dominic Jones?
Yes, yeah.
That chaos control, it's a beautiful toilet roll.
Yeah,
jewelry.
very well, beautifully made toilet roll holder. I wish I could say I have it in my house, but it's like packed away nicely at Starworks.
Treasure it always.
Yeah, I mean that particular piece came from just one image that Jack had on his Instagram, and he was like, we were talking about jewelry. We're like, what do you feel like? I kind of want to try these enamel things, and then he was like, I just want to try this. And then that was one image that Dominic sort of responded to and was like, okay, this is what I would like to kind of put forward for you for your Loverboy collection. So it was literally like a toilet roll on a chain. And actually what that's made of is that's silver plated, I forgot the name of the material, but this toilet roll is actually made out of silk. So, you know, it's laser cut silk. So it was, you know, we had a few different sizes of it. So we had tiny mini toilet rolls, we had larger ones for the neck and then on the arms. And, yeah, and it was all rolled up and then there's Velcro at the end there. So you can kind of roll it back up and then all I do is kind of fling it out and all of that. So.
That's fab. You kind of worked with a lot of different people on this collection, lots of collaborating kind of, obviously Dominic Jones, and am I right in thinking Richard Quinn did some prints? And then obviously Gary did the pink set. And do you feel like that's part of the whole portrait of a lover boy, is that you're bringing people who kind of inspire you or you work with, or people who you would see on your night or a part of your family? I think that's key in having this having them involved in your collection.
Definitely. I think, I mean, I've always been somebody that just loves to work with people, and like, you know, I always love to surround myself with people who are, you know, incredibly talented and who are like intelligent, because I just kind of feed off of that. And I just, you know, there's so many amazing people that I've sort of encountered in, you know, the club night, and that I've just been so excited by. I mean, I get so excited by people who are just talented and who just are doing things, and I almost want to like sort of be like, look at what this person's doing, and kind of show them off. And I guess that sort of is kind of, I guess, the way that we sort of work. So, you know, with Richard, obviously, like, I've known him from St. Martin's, and I adored his MA collection, and you know, he was really amazing. He was really lucky enough to, not lucky enough, he won the H&M award, and he actually was amazing. He made a studio, and yeah, he used the money to make that studio, and I was lucky enough to actually get to use that studio and actually experiment with all of the kind of textiles that I'd never really had the chance to before, with like where I'd been before. So yeah, that was really amazing. And then like working with Jack, obviously, and Gary is like, I mean, Gary's always a treat to work with because we just share the same aesthetic. I mean, the funny thing about how me and Gary worked was, I mean, I was looking at this book by Charles Frere, who I actually met at this ER festival, which went to, a photography festival, and he photographed all of these kind of traditional Japanese costumes, and you know, we were just looking at how we could sort of construct them. There's something about, I think, Gary, we sort of, I feel like we come from the same planet, like, you know, we can kind of get each other's sort of aesthetic.
That is incredible that he just, like, that was such a show-stopping. Visually, everyone was just floored as soon as, especially with the little reveals that came. Yeah,
the Nijinsky sort of entrances. Yeah, it was just a really quick one. And I think what we've done is we've done a workshop, actually. So we, again, had another space in Somerset House where we gathered. We kind of put like a call out on Instagram. And, you know, it's obviously, you know, it's about kind of having these close-knit collaborators that I work with all the time. But then, you know, I wanted to open out to the people who are kind of fans of the brand. So I was like, do you guys want to be involved in a workshop? You know, like, send in your request. And I can't quite remember what the call-out was. But we ended up having this big group of people that arrived at Somerset House. And then we had, like, all these kind of rolls of pink fabric. Gary was making bits of set. And then we had Theo Adams come in. And we were, like, kind of just in this one space, just making loads of stuff, and then we were trying to come up with this how we could incorporate all of this within a fashion show context. You know, seeing the space that the BFC gave us to use. So, you know, I was trying to like recreate the space there, and then like, you know, have all these different, you know, cardboard creatures, and the amount of like times we were trying to try things. So this is the final choreography that we did. So this sort of like Nijinsky entrance and then the reveal. But like before we got there, it was mental. We were like we were going to do like a big production line throughout the middle of the catwalk, to then build totems, and then we were going to do one thing where they kind of all followed one model, and you know, we were trying to like practice it, and it was like one of these weird sort of like, yeah, it was a bit of a head fuck, because we were trying to like actually like figure out what was the right thing to do. But then this ended up becoming the best thing. But
it was fab.
Like all these costumes as well. Like these were all made by, you know, two amazing interns of mine. I had Sam and Simone. And basically they had like, each dancer came towards them, and I said to Sam and Simone, I was like, right, you guys just respond to the dancer and just sort of tie knots and, you know, pleat the fabric, and then come up with all these different silhouettes, like kind of toga-esque elements that they can then be the things that are worn with the cardboard sculptures. And it was that kind of, during that day of like, that kind of workshop, and they just made so many costumes in that one day. So, but yeah, again, to kind of go back to that idea of collaboration, like I do sort of love to have lots of things and lots of people sort of kind of working together, and me sort of, I guess, sort of looking over it and kind of, I guess, sort of, you know, overseeing it and making sure it all kind of comes together.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love that. That's my kind of favourite thing when it's all sort of happening at once. So
it definitely pays off.
Yeah.
Fab. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you.
It was a joy to speak to you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.